What's up, guys? More back here with yet another riveting episode here on the Avion Awesome channel, and today I want to talk about why it is beneficial, no, preferable to staying as close to 12 volts on your electrical system as possible. Now listen, I realize that electricity is probably not the most exciting topic in the world. It is very important to those of us that like to go boondocking or that like to stay off-grid as long as possible. For those of you that want to understand why it's preferable, stick with me. I'm going to try and break it down as best as I possibly can. Some of you may be wondering, why is it beneficial to stay as close to 12 volts, or in my case, preferable to stay as close to 12 volts as possible? Well, the number one reason for me is I don't like to turn on my inverter. Now, the inverter is the device that basically takes 12 volt power and then inverts it to house power. 12 volt power is, you can just think of it as car power. AC power, think of it as house power. So anything that you use in a house generally has this type of plug. It has the 2-prong plug. Anything that has this type of plug is generally considered a 12 volt plug. So the major problems start to rear their ugly head when you have to turn your inverter on. Alright, so some of y'all are wondering, okay, now Mark, you've introduced something else. What's an inverter? Well, an inverter is what changes car power into house power. And the real problem is because when you turn on an inverter, it requires power just to be turned on. And then when it is turned on and you plug in any type of house appliance into that inverter, it takes a lot of 12 volt energy in order to make that household appliance work. So with that in mind, let me give you an example. Okay, so as some of you may remember, this is the Energy Kodiak. It is basically a 12 volt battery inside this box with a built-in inverter on the inside so that we can use these AC or house power plugs. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you that even without the main power being turned on, I can plug in this 12 volt charger and you will see that it immediately gets power without having to have the inverter turned on. Okay, so now I have power. I can plug stuff up to this and I will be able to charge 12 volt devices directly from this 12 volt plug, no problem. Now I'm going to take something that has an AC plug and I'm going to plug it into one of these ports here, and as you can see, the light doesn't come on. The only way that I can get this household appliance to turn on is if I push this power button and the generator starts up. That's the only way. And when I pull it out, it works just fine now. But without that inverter being turned on, this wouldn't work, but this 12 volt appliance works just fine. But thankfully, most of the stuff that we use right now doesn't even require inverted power. Our phones can easily run off 12 volt. You can plug them directly into your car. Tablets can be charged off 12 volt. Apple AirPods can be charged off 12 volt. An Apple Watch. Even a laptop can be charged off 12 volt. All of these are 12 volt devices. You don't have to invert this power whatsoever. But as soon as you start trying to charge these devices in household outlets, you have to start using like that. You have to start using chargers like that. You have to start using big chargers like that. All of these bricks basically have inverters built inside. Actually, these are converters. AC power goes into the plug, it gets converted down into 12 volt, and then you get 12 volt power out on the back end of it. So if you're still using these things, that means you're having to turn on an inverter in order to transform the AC power into DC power in order to charge up these devices. And that's completely unnecessary. So now these days, instead of trying to always turn on my inverter so I can plug in something like this to power and charge up my devices, I simply use something like this instead. And I plug it directly into 12 volt, and then I can charge all of my 12 volt devices. Anything that is USB powered doesn't require the inverter to be turned on whatsoever. I can plug in phones, my watch, my tablet will all charge from this 12-volt outlet. The long and short of this video is that if you use the power bricks, they're basically converters. They will bring the AC power in through the plug and then make it into 12-volt power anyway. Bypass this part, don't turn on your inverter, and charge your devices directly from 12 volts. Most of the stuff that you're going to use the vast majority of the day, laptops, tablets, phones, that type of thing, can all be charged and powered on by simply having 12-volt outlets nearby. Use these types of devices as much as humanly possible. But when you do actually finally have to power something that requires house power, then you're only limiting your usage of your inverter to those moments. Ultimately, you're saving yourself extra energy. You're saving yourself extra power. And when you're out there boondocking far away from any hookups whatsoever, that is an absolute gold mine. People that need power are going to have extra because they didn't have to keep their inverter turned on the entire time. Not to mention, it also saves you a ton in gas by not having to turn your generator on. At any rate, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks so much for stopping here and watching yet another riveting episode here on the Avion Awesome channel. I'm your host, Mark Puckett, and I'm going to see you guys again on the next one. Peace.